Hi everyone, my name is Deesha, also known as Deesha, and today I'm going to be talking about my best books for 2023. This is actually the second time that I'm filming this. I filmed it before and the video quality wasn't that great. I'm still trying to figure out this camera that I got, and honestly, I feel like I'd rather just prefer filming on my phone because it's just straightforward like that. But I apologize for the delay. I meant to have this up last week, but here we are this week. So today I have 9 books that I want to talk about as being my best books of 2023. And even though I have 9 books that I want to talk about, none of these books were actually 5 stars. A lot of them missed the mark for me in just like little ways that I probably could bump it up to a 5 star if I really wanted to. But a lot of them, like, I feel like they were better than like my average reads, and so I still wanted to shout them out. And before I even get to those reads, I did want to shout out a few honorable mentions. The first being the 5th season. I read this is my 3rd time that I read it this last time, and this 3rd time I read it, I wasn't as in love with it as I was before, but I honestly think that's just because I was in a fantasy like slump, and so this one still gets like an honorable mention because I really just enjoyed the overall craft of what this story does, and so here it is. Another honorable mention is The Three Mrs. Greys. I think that this was my introduction to messy books, and I just really enjoyed it. These characters are an absolute mess, and I just had the absolute best time reading it. And then I have Red Roses and Regrets. This is like one of those romances where I was actually feeling like the characters really like fit together, and I was really feeling their emotional connection. But while I was feeling that, I still didn't really give it over a 4-star read just because there's just like a few little things here and there that I just wasn't really a fan of. And so here's another honorable mention. And then I have The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. This one was a great collection of short stories. Like, I honestly don't have any complaints about any of them. And the only reason why it's not 5 stars and on my best reads for 2023 is because I don't think I would ever reread it. Like, I didn't have that strong emotional connection to the stories that would make me like really want to reread it again. And the last one that I have for my honorable mentions is Blacktop Wasteland, which is by S.A. Cosby. And honestly, I really just enjoy the characterization that the author has with it when it comes to creating the story that he tells. And so without further ado, let's get into my best books for 2023. And these are in no particular order. I'm just gonna go in the order that I wrote them down on my notebook. So the first one is Bingo Love. I read this one for the Naked Readathon that happened in 2023, and that one is hosted by the Black Prose Club. I really enjoyed this. This book, Bingo Love, follows 2 older ladies who were separated from like them being able to be together because of the time period that they were growing up in. And then it follows them as they're getting older and they just reconnect and they fall in love again. And I thought this was just such a beautiful story. It definitely gave me all of the feels. It was just so sad, but also just so beautiful to watch these 2 women just love each other, like unconditionally. Like, they just loved each other so much. It was just really nice and very heartwarming to see. The next one that I have is TJ Young and Orisha's. The first book is called The Gatekeeper Staff. I really enjoyed the cultural aspects of this. I honestly feel like this is like one of my favorite like African mythology type of stories. Like, there's been an influx of it just because of the Children of Blood and Bone success and all of that, but like by far this one, it has to be like my favorite one that I've ever read. This one follows a young boy named TJ who is in a family of like, I don't want to call them diviners because that feels like it's in a different book, but his family like wields magic and he's the only one that can. Long story short, he ends up going to this camp because they see that he can kind of like do some kind of magic, even though like he can't really call it on command. So he gets sent to this camp for kids that have like some kind of like magical powers that tie to the Orishas. But in the midst of all of this magic happening, the real story is like there's something surrounding his sister that's like a mystery that he's really just trying to solve and figure out like what happened. And when I tell you I really enjoyed this story, like I was like really hooked. I love the characters. I just really loved the characterization of like the mom too. Like, you could just hear like the Nigerian like sucking of their teeth, like the way that they do. Like, I don't know if you've never been around Nigerians, like, I swear, like, it's like something that they always do, and the narrator got that like on point. And I really just enjoyed like the middle school kind of vibe of it. Like, TJ definitely reads like he's in middle school. The characters around them really read like they're in middle school. He has like a little crush on another girl, and like it's just really cute to follow. And I also just really enjoyed the Orishas. Like, there was like a part that I'm not gonna spoil, but like the magic and the way that the Orishas are tied into these characters and the way that it connects to TJ absolutely like blew my mind. And so I definitely want to read the next book, especially with the reveal with TJ, and I'm really excited. The next one that I have is Wash Day Diaries. Along the same lines as Bingo Love, this one is just a very comforting read. And so Wash Day Diaries follows 4 different women, all on like different journeys of their life. They all kind of connect because they're best friends, but in the grand scheme of things, like, they all are pretty much like separate stories. Like, one girl is dealing with her family not really accepting her queer identity, and another girl is like dealing with like depression, another is in like a love triangle type of thing. And even though all of those things, they don't necessarily lean to be like comforting, I think the comforting aspect was like just seeing Black women doing their hair. Like, that was like the point that really got to me, just because it almost seemed to be like a way of them like taking care of themselves and like really bonding together, especially when you think of like Black women like going to like salons, which isn't really a thing anymore, which is very sad, but that's another tangent. And so like the salon scene I really enjoyed, and then just the character who was the artist, like her and her friends like coming together at the end. Like, Black women and their hair is just a lot to like unpack, and I just feel like even though it wasn't really dealing with like the issues, like the historical issues and stuff, like I feel like just seeing it and the multifacetedness, is that a word? Multifacetedness? You guys know what I'm talking about. But just seeing that and all the factors that like really make up a Black woman deciding like what they're gonna do with their hair, especially with all the policing and stuff that happens with Black people in their hair. Like, it was just comforting to see them just living their lives, being the best of friends, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. The next one has definitely got to be like my top read of 2023, if I were to rank them, which I'm not, but this one is definitely like my favorite read of 2023, and that is Daughters of Jubilation. I was not expecting to love this as much as I did, and I think because I was kind of like hoping that I'd really enjoy it, but like not really thinking that I'd like super enjoy it. I think that's why it's like my favorite, because it surprised me by how much like it like impacted me. So this story follows this young girl. It's like the summer of like, I don't even know, it's a historical fiction novel, but I want to say it's in like the 1960s. But this character is basically living their life in this historical place in the South, and as you can guess by like the time period and just her being a young Black girl, not really like the safest environment. But I think where this author really excels is that like those elements are there, but the way that the author deals with it is what really made me enjoy it. First of all, it's not even like that like brutal. I think a lot of young adult books can be like very brutal when it tries to show like real elements of stuff like that, but this book did not do that at all. Like, I feel like it had like a purpose. It was really like in the story, and even then, like, I feel like the way that the characters dealt with it, it wasn't even like their whole lives. A lot of these stories, like, they really feel like the brutality and like the weight of being Black is like their whole thing, but it doesn't show like the joy of being a Black person. And I feel like this story really did it. You had like the cookout, you had like the community aspects, and you also had like a very interesting dynamic with the mother-daughter relationships that were in this little girl's family. And so I just really enjoyed it. And there was like this little romance that, even thinking about it, is making me tear up because it was so beautiful. Like, I honestly, there was this one scene that was like, this is so beautiful. Like, if somebody could write me an adult romance with this historical aspect of it, like, it would be a 5-star read, like, automatically. But Oh my gosh, like this story really had me and my emotions like so many ways. I was like laughing at the character, really like feeling with the character when she was dealing like, with her family issues. I was crying just because of all the societal issues happening, and like, yeah, this book put me on an emotional roller coaster, and that's why it's like my favorite read. The next book that I have was also a great read for me, and that is Razorblade Tears. This book was my first S.A. Cosby read, and I think that's why it's on my favorites list instead of Blacktop Wasteland. I think the southern aspect of this story was really what made me really enjoy it, because of course I was listening to this one on audiobook as well, which is my favorite way to consume S.A. Cosby's work because the narrators do such a great job. But I think that since this was my introduction to S.A. Cosby, I feel like that's why I really enjoy this one. This story follows two fathers who are bonded because their sons were in a partnership with each other. And while they were alive, their parents, the main characters, didn't really accept their relationship. And so kind of as a one last ditch effort to avenge their son's death, they go and try to figure out what happened and like get justice for their sons. Because the characters were so strong for me, like they have such a distinct character voice, they just really entertained me. Like the father's dynamic really entertained me, and I'm just like, how did their sons get together and like these two guys get together and try to avenge them? Like they couldn't come from like more different like backgrounds, and it's like so funny to me. But I really enjoyed this. I did have like a few problems with it because I watched this video where they were talking about centering the like the redemption, I guess, of the parents that didn't accept their sons or their children when they were alive, and then trying to find a redemption arc could be like seen as problematic. And so thinking about that kind of like lowered my like star rating for this, but overall I still really enjoy this story. The next book that I have is The Romantic Agenda by Kann. This story follows Fox and Joy. Joy has been in love with her best friend Malcolm for like the longest of times, I think since they even like met each other. And so she's thinking now that he's broken up with his last girlfriend that she'll be able to get in a relationship with him, or at least try something out. But then she finds out that he actually does have another girlfriend, and he's inviting her on a camping trip with her and his girlfriend's like friend, I guess, which is Fox. And so they all end up going on this camping trip, even though she hates camping. And so then while they're on the camping trip, things happen and Fox and Joy decide to fake date each other. Just describing the story, I would not think that I would really enjoy this, but I really did. I think it's partly because of the main character. I really loved Joy, and I really liked her relationship with Fox. I really think that because of the whole Grumpy Sunshine aspect of it, like, it was really entertaining for me. Fox would always give her like these one word or short clipped answers, and they would just kind of like bug her a little bit. And then like she was just like being her whole like sunshine self or whatever. And yeah, I think the Grumpy Sunshine trope is really for me because I really did enjoy that aspect of it. Another contemporary romance that I have is Honey and Spice, and this is by far my favorite couple ever. I really love Malachi and Kikiola, my Spice and the Honey. I love both of them so much. They are like literally like the most perfect match people I have ever read about. I saw them really starting to fall in love with each other. I saw them like really connecting with each other and like on like a personal level, and like their banter back and forth, I just feel like it was pure gold. Like Bolu Babalola really writes characters that I feel like really go together. Sometimes I'm kind of like, okay, like whatever, but like Malachi had his own like dreams and stuff and things that he wanted to do. He had his own little comebacks, and then Kikiola also was able to like have her own dreams and stuff too and have her own comebacks. Like they were just like perfectly matched. I honestly think that like there was like nobody else in the world for Malachi and Kikiola. I'm still even getting like the feels of like how I was like feeling while I was listening to that audiobook. That's why it's like one of my favorite romances like ever. And the next one that I have, completely along different lines, is Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. This story follows a young child who ends up creating or summoning a monster with their blood when they like accidentally like prick their finger on their mom's like painting, and that makes a monster come alive. And this monster is only alive because they're like an evil in this world, and in this world that the child lives in, there's no more evil at all, which is why the monsters that were there are like gone. And so because the monster is here from the painting, that means that there's like an evil in the world, and so it's like a mystery to try to figure out like what's going on. This story was a very rough to like read. I was not expecting like how tough of a read that this would be, and it's not even because like everything is like super detailed. Like if anything, it's not really detailed at all. Like it's still told through like a children's kind of like lens, but like as an adult, like I know what's going on. I know what the story is like leading to. And so it just hits even harder when you have like the innocence of a child discovering what evilness is and what could be and what is happening. And so I feel like Akwaeke Emezi did their thing when they wrote the story. I have no critiques at all for this story. Like I honestly felt like this was perfectly told. The author can really write, and the way that the author handled the subject matter and in this kind of world, I honestly feel like the author definitely deserves their flowers for this. And last but not least, I have another darker kind of story, and that is He Calls Himself Veles. He Calls Himself Veles follows this girl who is working at like a nightclub. She ends up getting this new apartment, and in this new apartment, she finds like this demon in the mirror, and somehow, some way, he convinces her to let him out of the mirror as like kind of a deal, and he's gonna do her bidding. Her bidding is basically to get revenge on like what happened to her as a child. And this one also deals with like heavy content things, especially dealing with children, and so I would definitely look up those content warnings. And so while this story deals with those like darker elements, there's also like an angel demon type of storyline, and that's the part that I really enjoyed. The darker elements, I feel like it wasn't really handled, not right, but like it wasn't really like the thing that made me enjoy the story. Like it was a part of the character, but I honestly feel like that was like one of the weaker parts of the story. The part of the story that I really enjoyed was the actual relationship between the main character and the demons that she was like fraternizing with. Of course, because they're demons or whatever, like they are very flirtatious with her, trying to succumb her to the darker side. And she does do it like a few times with a few, but I really enjoyed the love triangle aspect of this. I thought the writing was really great in this one as well, which is what really, I think, drew me in, because I was just really invested in the story. Like it was very good at like sucking me into the story, which I haven't read a book like that in a long time, and so I feel like that was one of the pros that really got me hooked into the story, was the writing. But then the characters really like pulled me in as well. I really just enjoyed like following them, like the banter that they had with each other, especially like the demons that they had when they were like fighting over this girl. So I really enjoyed that aspect. I thought the main character was just kind of like bland, which is probably why I don't really remember her name, but I just remember like the demons being like very memorable. I would probably reread it just because of the elements of the banter and stuff that I was talking about. But yeah, I enjoyed this one, so it's definitely on my best books for 2023. But that wraps up all of the books that were my best books for 2023 and the honorable mentions that I had. I would love to know any of the best books that you have read, and I'm really hoping that for 2024 I will find a 5-star read. If you have made it to the end of this video, let's leave a star emoji for the 5 stars and all of these stars. I thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!